You're not falling apart. Your shedding is more than a title, it's a realization that redefines transformation. So often, in the silence of our rooms or in the chaos of daily life, we feel ourselves unraveling. We label the confusion, the anxiety, the unexpected tears, and the sleepless nights as a breakdown. We tell ourselves we're falling apart. And the world, unfortunately, reinforces that fear. Society teaches us that if we're not holding it together, we're somehow failing. But what if that's not true? What if what you're experiencing isn't the end, but the beginning? This book was born from that very question. You're not falling apart. You're shedding. These words are for the woman who suddenly doesn't recognize herself. The man who walks away from a career he no longer feels at home in. The young adult who feels out of place in the life they once wanted. These words are for you. If you've been made to feel broken when in truth, you're becoming. We've all been conditioned to equate change with instability and pain with punishment. But nature doesn't see it that way. Look at the caterpillar, dissolving in its cocoon before becoming a butterfly. Look at trees shedding their leaves to conserve energy and grow stronger for spring. Or snakes leaving behind a skin that no longer fits. The shedding process may look violent, even ugly, but it's natural, necessary, sacred. In our human lives, we go through similar processes. When we outgrow relationships, belief systems, careers, or versions of ourselves that no longer align with our soul's truth. It can feel like we're falling apart, but we're not. We're letting go, shedding, evolving. This book is not here to tell you to stay strong or just be positive. It's here to sit with you in the discomfort, to validate the confusion, to walk beside you through the parts of your life where everything feels like it's coming undone. Because on the other side of shedding, there is clarity. There is growth. There is a new you that's been waiting to emerge, patiently, behind all the layers you thought you needed to survive. Each chapter of this book is a stage of the shedding process, meant to help you recognize the signs, understand the emotions, and make peace with your own transformation. You'll learn to unlearn, you'll let go with purpose, and you'll stop fearing what is. In truth, you're becoming. You are not broken. You are in transition. Let this book be your mirror, your compass, and your permission slip to shed with grace. You're sitting on your bed, and everything around you feels strangely foreign. The room is the same. The furniture hasn't moved. The people in your life are still texting, calling, showing up, but something inside of you is different. Quietly, almost invisibly, you've started to feel like you're breaking. You wake up tired even after sleeping. You're disconnected from things you once loved. You cry for no reason. You feel anxious, overwhelmed, numb, or all three in waves that hit without warning. It feels like you're falling apart. But you're not. This is the illusion. The first stage of transformation doesn't feel like a breakthrough. It feels like breakdown, and society has conditioned us to fear breakdowns, to interpret them as evidence of failure or weakness. We've been taught to avoid pain at all costs, to push through and stay the same, even when our soul is begging us to change. The illusion of falling apart is powerful because it's rooted in how we perceive stability. To most people, together, life looks like predictability, waking up on time, going to a job you don't hate, answering messages, checking boxes, doing what's expected. As long as the outside looks calm, we're told we're doing fine. But what about the inside? What about the slow ache of misalignment that builds when your job, your friends, your environment, even your identity, no longer fit? That ache is a signal, a whisper, and eventually, if you ignore it long enough, it turns into a scream. The illusion of falling apart begins when that whisper becomes impossible to silence. When the life you've built, no matter how polished, starts to feel too small for your spirit. Like wearing clothes 2 sizes too tight. Like trying to keep smiling while your soul is gasping for air. And when you start removing the layers, it doesn't feel freeing right away. It feels terrifying. You'll ask, why am I feeling this way? What's wrong with me? Why can't I just be happy like before? But there is nothing wrong with you. You're not malfunctioning. You're not collapsing. You're evolving. Shedding is a natural process that begins with discomfort. But the discomfort doesn't mean you're breaking. It means you're growing beyond the shape you've known. When a lobster grows too big for its shell, it must shed that shell to survive. But during the shedding process, the lobster is vulnerable, soft, exposed, unprotected. It must hide, retreat, rest. But is it broken? No, it's becoming, and so are you. The illusion of falling apart tricks you into thinking that because things are changing, you must be failing. But what if, instead of failing, you are finally allowing, finally listening, finally waking up to the fact that the life you once wanted no longer fits the person you're becoming? In this moment, what you need more than a plan or a fix is compassion. Not just from others, but from yourself. You need to treat yourself the way you'd treat a dear friend who came to you crying and scared. You wouldn't tell her she was broken. You'd hold her and tell her she was brave for feeling. That's what you deserve, too. Here are some signs that what you're experiencing is shedding, not falling apart. You feel disconnected from your past passions. What once excited you now feels empty or mechanical. This is often the first sign of outgrowing an old version of yourself. You are emotionally raw. Little things trigger you. Tears come easily. This means your defenses are coming down, allowing long-buried truths to surface. You feel lost, but also like you can't go back. There's a knowing deep within that you're not meant to return to who you were. But the future hasn't yet taken shape. You're exhausted, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Growth takes energy, and inner shifts are some of the heaviest lifting your soul will ever do. You crave solitude, not because you hate people, but because you're trying to hear yourself again, without the noise of who the world told you to be. It's important to remember, just because something is unfamiliar doesn't mean it's wrong. The cocoon is unfamiliar to the caterpillar, too. Darkness is unfamiliar to a sprout just before it bursts into light. You are in that dark, sacred middle, a place where most people panic and run back to safety. But safety can also be a cage. You are not here to live a life of just surviving. You are here to become. And becoming is a process that begins with undoing, unpacking, questioning everything you once believed about what it means to be okay. That's why this illusion is so disorienting. It challenges your very definition of identity, of success, of self. But you are not your job, your title, your productivity, your performance. You are a soul in evolution. You are consciousness in motion. You are allowed to outgrow. You are allowed to not have it all figured out. You are allowed to say, I don't know who I am anymore, and not treat that as a crisis, but as an opening. In truth, falling apart is often the only way the soul knows how to make space. Space for healing, space for clarity, space for who you really are beneath the performance of who you thought you had to be. So let yourself feel messy. Let yourself cry in the car. Let yourself cancel plans, turn off your phone, sleep a little longer. These are not signs of weakness. They are signs of internal renovation. And you cannot renovate a house without tearing down some walls. When it feels like you're crumbling, ask yourself gently, what if this is not the end of me, but the start of a deeper me? What if I'm not breaking down, but breaking open? You are not falling apart. You are shedding, and the version of you that's emerging is one who will walk through life with less weight and more truth. So take a deep breath. This is just the beginning. Shedding sounds poetic, until you're in the middle of it. People romanticize transformation all the time. They talk about healing like it's a weekend retreat, about growth like it's a Pinterest quote, and about letting go like it's something you can do with a glass of wine and a good cry. But real shedding is raw. It's uncomfortable. It's not something you choose so much as something your soul demands. To truly understand what it means to shed, we have to go deeper than surface level change. Shedding is not a minor adjustment. It is not an Instagram rebrand or a seasonal wardrobe swap. It is the act of peeling back who you've been told you were, who you once needed to be to survive, and standing naked in the truth of who you are now. It is spiritual molting. Let's look at nature again. A snake sheds its skin not just to grow, but because the outer layer no longer serves it. The old skin becomes restrictive, dry, even dangerous if it stays on too long. The snake doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't delay. When it's time, it rubs up against the world until the outer layer breaks and falls away. That's you, right now. But in human terms, that outer skin is made of layers like roles you took on to be loved, beliefs you inherited without question, coping mechanisms that once protected you but now hold you back, identities built on survival, not authenticity. So, what does shedding look like in real life? It might look like quitting a job that makes you feel hollow even though it pays the bills. It might look like distancing yourself from people who only love you when you're convenient. It might look like finally admitting, "I'm not okay," and asking for help. It might look like throwing away old journals filled with pain you've carried long enough. It might look like choosing silence over explanation, solitude over performance, depth over appearance. And shedding doesn't always come with a clear why. You might not be able to explain it to your friends. You may not even be able to explain it to yourself. But deep down, you know it's time. You can feel the old self loosening, slipping, disintegrating, and even if that process terrifies you, it also frees you. Here's the truth. Shedding is a form of sacred rebellion. It's your soul saying, "I am no longer willing to wear the mask. I am no longer willing to shrink to be accepted. I am no longer willing to betray myself just to be understood." But with rebellion comes grief. You will grieve the old self, even the parts that hurt, even the habits you hated. Why? Because they were familiar, predictable, comforting in their own way. You will grieve relationships you outgrow, not because they were perfect, but because they were part of your story. You will grieve identities, jobs, hometowns, versions of you that once felt like home. And that's okay. Grief is not a sign you made the wrong decision. It's a sign that you are honoring what was while still choosing what can be. That is the paradox of shedding. You are both releasing and remembering. Remembering who you were before the world taught you to be something else. And that's why it hurts. Because shedding requires a level of honesty that not everyone is ready for. It requires you to stand in the mirror and ask, "What do I believe about myself that is no longer true? What am I holding on to out of fear, not love? Who am I when I'm no longer trying to be everything for everyone else?" Answering these questions doesn't always feel like enlightenment. Sometimes it feels like chaos. Because when you start to tell the truth to yourself, everything built on a lie starts to crumble. And that crumble, though necessary, is never clean. But here's something important. Shedding is not about becoming someone new. It's about removing what's not you. You were always enough. You were always whole. But life layers things on us: expectations, trauma, roles, reputations. Shedding is the brave act of taking all that off. Sometimes, it happens slowly, over years, like the slow erosion of a shoreline, gentle, consistent, unseen until one day, the shape of the coast is completely different. Other times, it happens in a moment. A heartbreak, a health scare, a rock bottom, one event that tears the mask away and forces you to face the raw truth underneath. Either way, the purpose is the same: realignment. You were never meant to stay stuck in the same version of yourself forever. Growth isn't linear, it's layered. And each layer you peel back brings you closer to your core. But shedding also comes with responsibility. You cannot shed without deciding what to carry forward. You have to choose your beliefs again. Choose your priorities again. Choose your boundaries again. You're not just breaking down, you're rebuilding. But this time, you get to build with intention, with clarity, with truth. This is where the real power begins to show itself. When you realize you're no longer willing to tolerate what drains you. When you recognize that discomfort doesn't always mean danger, it often means expansion. When you begin to trust that what's falling away is not a loss, but a liberation. Let's pause for a moment here. Take a breath. You are already in the process. You're not behind. You're not late. You are shedding exactly when you were meant to. And even if no one else sees it, even if the world still thinks you're falling apart, you now know the truth. You are not collapsing. You are clearing. You are not lost. You are making space. You are not ending. You are becoming. This chapter is not the climax. It's a quiet turning point. A chapter where the shedding begins not with noise, but with deep, almost imperceptible shifts inside your heart. And when people ask you what's going on, Maybe you don't have the perfect answer yet. Maybe you just smile and say, "I'm shedding." Before you can fully become who you are meant to be, you must unlearn who you were taught to be. That's the truth no one tells you. Transformation doesn't just begin with the addition of new knowledge, it begins with subtraction. With peeling back the layers of conditioning, expectation, and inherited patterns that were never truly you to begin with. And this unlearning is one of the hardest parts of shedding. Because we're not just walking away from bad habits or outdated beliefs. We're letting go of identities we built to feel safe. It's hard to unlearn a self that once protected you. It's hard to challenge the things that made you feel accepted, loved, or valuable, even if they were rooted in performance rather than truth. So the question becomes, who taught you who you had to be? Think about that for a moment. Was it your parents, who told you to always be the good girl or the strong one? Was it a teacher who said you were only smart if you aced the test? Was it society, with its unspoken rules about beauty, success, and what makes a life worthwhile? We all carry invisible scripts. Scripts that tell us how to behave, what to value, how to look, how to love, how to measure our worth. These scripts are written by the cultures we come from, the trauma we've survived, the roles we've been praised for playing. And often, we follow them without question until one day, something inside us says, "This isn't me anymore." Unlearning begins when you stop mistaking performance for purpose. It's when the woman who has always been the helper realizes she's been abandoning herself to care for others. It's when the man who has built his identity around being the provider admits he's exhausted and dreams of something simpler. It's when the overachiever realizes that their worth doesn't live in their resume. It's when the quiet one finally speaks. But this kind of clarity doesn't arrive without resistance. Our brains are wired for the familiar, even if the familiar is painful. That's why, during the shedding process, you might feel pulled back into old behaviors. You might find yourself questioning your intuition. You may even grieve the idea of being someone others understood, even if that version of you was incomplete. Because here's the deal. Unlearning who you were doesn't just affect you. It affects everyone around you. People will notice when you stop playing your usual roles. When you stop saying yes all the time. When you stop laughing at jokes that aren't funny. Shrinking yourself in rooms where you belong. Apologizing for simply existing. Some people won't like it. They'll say you change. They'll say you're selfish, distant, cold. That's not because you're wrong. It's because your growth disrupts their comfort. And you'll have to decide. Will you keep performing to keep the peace? Or will you continue shedding, even if it makes others uncomfortable? This is where courage comes in. Because unlearning isn't just about walking away from false identities. It's about standing still in the messy middle, unsure of who you are now, but no longer willing to go back to who you were. You will feel exposed. You will feel misunderstood. You will feel alone, sometimes. But you will also begin to feel free. Free to question the rules you were taught. Free to explore what joy feels like on your terms. Free to redefine success, love, family, identity, not based on what was passed down to you, but what actually aligns with your truth. Here are a few things you may need to unlearn on your shedding journey. That your worth is based on productivity. You are not a machine. You are not defined by how much you get done in a day. Rest is not laziness. Your value is inherent. That being nice is more important than being honest. People-pleasing is not kindness, it's a survival response. You are allowed to disappoint others in order to honor yourself. That your feelings are too much. Emotional suppression is not strength. Feeling deeply is not a flaw, it's a superpower. That you need to have everything figured out. Life is not a straight line. Not knowing is a sacred space. It leaves room for wonder, intuition, and growth. That love must be earned. Real love is not conditional on your achievements, appearance, or obedience. You do not have to perform for it. This kind of unlearning will shake the foundation of your life. It will challenge your relationships, your career, your choices, and even your dreams. And that's okay. Because underneath all the shedding is something real, you. The you who laughs without checking if it's appropriate. The you who rests without guilt. The you who says, no, with a steady voice. The you who wears what you like, loves how you love, and finally stops apologizing for it. The truth is, you don't need to find yourself. You've been there all along. You've just been covered in expectations, shame, fear, and survival patterns. Unlearning is the art of removing all that so the real you can breathe again. So here's your reminder. You don't have to explain your unlearning to everyone. You don't need to justify your growth to those who benefited from your old patterns. And you don't owe anyone a version of you that no longer feels like home. You are allowed to shed. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to unlearn, even if it means being misunderstood. Because every layer you remove is one step closer to your freedom. This chapter isn't about erasing your past. It's about choosing your future. And the future begins when you gently whisper to yourself, I no longer need to be who I once was to be loved. I am allowed to be who I am becoming. Letting go sounds easy in theory. We toss around the phrase all the time like it's a switch you can flip, just let it go. As if detachment were that simple. As if hearts didn't get involved. As if history didn't hold weight. But in reality, letting go is one of the most emotionally demanding parts of shedding. Because what you're letting go of is rarely just the thing, it's the identity. The memories, the meaning you built around it. Letting go is not weakness. It's not defeat. It's not failure. Letting go is grief. Letting go is bravery. Letting go is a silent, powerful declaration that says, this no longer aligns with who I'm becoming. But it hurts, deeply. You may find yourself crying over a friendship you ended, even if it had turned toxic. You might ache for a relationship you walked away from, even though staying would have meant losing yourself. You may feel pangs of sadness when you leave a job, a city, a community, because while part of you outgrew it, another part still remembers the comfort it once gave you. Here's what no one talks about. Sometimes the most painful part of letting go is letting go of the potential. The version of the relationship you hoped it would become. The person you believed they could turn into. The dream that once gave you purpose, but now feels like a cage. And even when you know it's time, even when every sign points to release, your heart still protests. Because we are wired for attachment. We're wired to cling to the familiar. And in a world that equates holding on with loyalty, the act of letting go can feel like betrayal. But the real betrayal is abandoning yourself to hold on to what's breaking you. So let's say it clearly. You are not a bad person for letting go of something you've outgrown. You are not ungrateful for walking away from something that no longer nourishes you. You are not heartless for choosing peace over chaos. You are human, and your soul is asking for space to breathe. Letting go often requires you to hold two truths at once. I love this. And it's no longer right for me. Those can both be true. Love doesn't always mean longevity. Sometimes love is seasonal. Sometimes purpose expires. Sometimes people are only meant to walk with us for a chapter, not a lifetime. This duality is hard to accept, especially when guilt shows up. You may wonder, what if I'm giving up too soon? What if I'm the one who's broken? What if I regret this later? But guilt is not always an indicator of wrongdoing. Often, it's just a byproduct of boundaries. It shows up when you disrupt patterns. When you choose self-trust over external validation. Guilt is loud at first, but it quiets when you stay true to what you know inside. The pain of letting go comes in waves. Some days, you'll feel empowered, certain. Other days, the nostalgia will wash over you and tempt you to go back. That's normal. Letting go is not a straight line. It's a spiral. One day you feel healed. The next day you're sobbing on your kitchen floor over a memory. Don't shame yourself for that. In fact, let yourself feel the full weight of the goodbye. Too often, we rush past grief to look strong or move on. But grief is not weakness, it's evidence of your capacity to love deeply. To care, to hope, and allowing yourself to grieve is part of honoring what was. Write the letter you never sent. Cry in the car. Burn the journal page. Unfollow quietly. Mourn loudly. Do what your soul needs to do to say goodbye. Letting go also means trusting that what's meant to stay will never require you to abandon yourself to keep it. The right people, the right dreams, the right chapters, they won't feel like force. They won't feel like performance. They won't drain you. So if you have to contort yourself to make something work, pause. Ask yourself, am I holding on because I still love this? Or, am I holding on because I'm afraid of what life will be without it? There's a big difference between love and attachment. Love sets free. Attachment clings out of fear. And fear will try to convince you that there's nothing better waiting on the other side. That you're walking into nothing. That you'll be alone forever. But that's not the truth. That's the trauma talking. You are not walking into nothing. You're walking into yourself. Letting go clears space. Space for peace. Space for clarity. Space for something more aligned, more authentic, more true. Think of it like pruning a tree. You don't cut branches because you hate the tree. You prune it because you love it, because you know it needs room to thrive. You are that tree, and this pain is not punishment, it's pruning. You are not meant to carry every chapter with you. Some were only meant to teach you. And when the lesson is learned, the soul asks for release. So if you're standing at the edge, fingers clenched around the past, let me remind you gently. You can love something and still walk away. You can honor your past without dragging it into your future. You can choose peace over familiarity, and that choice is sacred. The pain of letting go will not last forever. But the peace that comes from letting go, that peace becomes the soil for everything you're meant to become. Take your time, there's no deadline. Letting go isn't a single moment, it's a process. And every time you say no to what no longer serves you, you say yes to the version of you waiting to emerge. So breathe, grieve, feel it all. You're not falling apart. You're shedding. And every goodbye makes space for a new hello. After the shedding, after the letting go, there is silence. You've left the job, you've walked away from the relationship, you've stopped pretending to be who you're not. And now, here you are, somewhere in between the old you and the new one. This is the cocoon stage. It is the sacred middle. The space between no longer and not yet. The stillness before the shift. It can be terrifying. You're no longer who you were, but you're not sure who you're becoming. Your identity feels suspended. The old routines don't fit. The old relationships feel distant. The old habits seem shallow. But nothing new has replaced them yet. You're just here, floating, waiting, cocooned. And in a world obsessed with doing, fixing, rushing, and proving, this kind of stillness feels unbearable. We're taught to move fast, to fill the void, to perform even in our pain. But real transformation doesn't happen in motion. It happens in stillness. The caterpillar doesn't become a butterfly while multitasking. It retreats. It dissolves. Yes, dissolves. In the cocoon, the caterpillar literally breaks down into cells. It liquefies into unrecognizable goo before rebuilding into something entirely new. This is not symbolic, it's scientific. And it mirrors what we go through in the depths of our emotional and spiritual transformation. You are not stagnant. You are dissolving. You are being remade. But here's the challenge. There are no external milestones in this phase. Nothing to show, nothing to measure, just the quiet, internal work of reorientation, and that can be deeply uncomfortable. You'll want to rush. You'll want to figure it out. You'll question yourself constantly. Am I doing enough? Shouldn't I have clarity by now? Why does it feel like nothing is happening? But something is happening, just not on the surface. In the cocoon, healing takes place in layers. Beliefs are being rewritten, nervous systems are recalibrating, truth is being remembered, but because it's happening inside, it's easy to miss or to doubt. So let this chapter remind you, stillness is not laziness. It is strategy. It is sacred. It is necessary. This is where you reconnect with your own voice. This is where your intuition gets louder. This is where your soul whispers its next instruction. But you have to get quiet enough to hear it. The cocoon stage is also where loneliness sets in, because shedding separates you from the crowd, from your past, from the version of you that fit in so well before. And when the noise fades, you might feel abandoned, isolated, unseen. But this solitude isn't punishment, it's preparation. You are learning to anchor into you, without the external scaffolding. You are learning to validate your own choices, without the applause. You are learning to love yourself in the absence of performance. This is the womb of your rebirth. So what can you do during this time? Here's the paradox. The cocoon stage isn't about doing, it's about being. But if you're someone who struggles with stillness, here are some gentle ways to support yourself during this phase. 1. Journal without goals. Don't write to figure it all out. Just write to feel. Let your pages hold the mess without needing a resolution. 2. Create without pressure. Draw, dance, garden, cook. Express yourself in ways that have no outcome. Let joy guide you, not productivity. 3. Spend time in nature. Nature doesn't rush. Seasons shift slowly. You'll learn more about your own rhythm by simply observing a tree than from 1,000 online courses. 4. Limit input. You don't need more advice. You need more silence. Reduce your consumption of content. Trust that you already hold the answers you're seeking. 5. Rest without guilt. Your body is processing everything. It needs time. Rest is part of the work. And most importantly, 6. Resist the urge to force clarity. Clarity will come, but not from pressure. It will arise like dawn, gradually, gently, without fanfare. In fact, one of the most profound truths you'll learn in the cocoon stage is this. Becoming isn't loud, it's quiet. It happens in your bones. It happens in your breath. It happens in the moments no one claps for. People won't see your internal revolution. They won't understand your stillness. They'll ask what you're working on, what your next steps are. You don't owe them an answer. You are not a project to be explained. You are a human being in sacred transition. And yes, it will feel like nothing is happening. But 5 months from now, 5 years from now, you'll look back at this chapter and realize everything was happening. The shedding, the shifting, the rebuilding. This was the season that shaped you. So be kind to yourself. Be patient. Speak to yourself as you would a friend going through something tender and private. You don't need to perform your healing. You don't need to prove your progress. You just need to stay present. Because the cocoon doesn't last forever. There will be a day when your wings begin to form, when your purpose clicks into place, when the fog lifts, and when that moment comes, it won't be because you hustled harder. It will be because you allowed the stillness to shape you. You'll emerge softer, stronger, wiser, and you'll carry with you the kind of grounded peace that only comes from learning to sit with your own becoming. You are not stuck. You are incubating. You are not lost. You are rerouting. Let this be your permission slip to rest in the cocoon. To trust the silence. To honor the pause. To wait, not with fear, but with faith. Because you are not falling apart. You are shedding. And this stillness is not your ending. It is your becoming. If shedding is the act of releasing what no longer fits, then fear is the invisible thread that tries to tie it all back together. Fear doesn't just show up during moments of change. It shows up because of change. And when you're in the middle of transformation, fear becomes louder, more convincing, more relentless. Because at its core, fear is not about the future. Fear is about loss. Fear is about control. Fear is about survival. And change, no matter how beautiful or necessary, feels like a threat to all three. Even when the change is self-chosen, even when it's overdue, even when you know it's the right thing, fear whispers. But what if this makes things worse? What if you fail? What if you end up alone? What if no one understands? And perhaps the hardest one, what if you're not ready? These are the lies fear tells. Not to punish you, but to protect you. Fear is a guardian, a nervous system response. It's rooted in your biology, your trauma, your past experiences. It is doing its job to keep you in the known, in the familiar, in the safe zone. But here's the paradox. The safe zone is often the stuck zone. Fear will always favor what is familiar, even if that familiarity is unfulfilling, toxic, or suffocating. It's why we stay in relationships long past their expiration date, why we keep jobs that drain us, why we replay the same self-sabotaging patterns. Not because we don't want to grow, but because fear tells us we won't survive the unknown. So how do you face the fear of change without letting it run the show? You start by acknowledging it. Fear thrives in silence, in the shadows, in shame, but when you name it, out loud, in a journal, in a conversation, it loses its grip. Try saying, I am afraid of what this change means. I am afraid of becoming someone I don't recognize. I am afraid of losing what I thought defined me. Say it without judgment. Say it without needing to solve it right away. Sometimes naming the fear is the most courageous act of all. Next, get curious about what your fear is trying to protect. Behind every fear is a need, a value, a wound. Fear doesn't come out of nowhere. It's responding to something in your nervous system that still needs healing. Maybe your fear of leaving that relationship is really about your fear of being unlovable. Maybe your fear of changing careers is about the belief that your worth is tied to stability. Maybe your fear of speaking up is rooted in a childhood where your voice wasn't safe. When you understand where the fear comes from, you no longer see it as the enemy. You see it as information. You see it as a part of you asking for support. One powerful reframe. You don't need to eliminate fear, you need to walk with it. Growth isn't about becoming fearless. It's about becoming braver. Bravery doesn't mean the fear goes away. It means you act anyway. You move forward even if your hands are shaking. You make the call. You say the goodbye. You take the leap. And here's something that will surprise you. Fear often shows up most when you're closest to a breakthrough. It's a kind of internal resistance. Like your old self pulling at your sleeves. Saying, are you sure you want to do this? Because once you cross that line, there's no going back. The cocoon doesn't reopen. Once the butterfly emerges, it cannot return to the caterpillar. And that's scary. Because transformation isn't just about what you're walking toward. It's about what you're permanently walking away from. So let's pause for a moment here. If you're facing a big change right now, ask yourself, what am I really afraid of losing? What do I think I'll no longer have once this change happens? What version of me am I afraid to say goodbye to? Sometimes, fear is a sign you're touching a tender edge, a place of true possibility. And rather than backing away, your work is to breathe through it. Not fix it, not fight it, just breathe. Say to your fear, I hear you, I see you, but I am no longer letting you make my choices. Because if fear is the voice of your past, courage is the voice of your future. And courage doesn't need you to be perfect, it only needs you to be willing. Willing to believe in the unseen. Willing to act without a guarantee. Willing to try, even if you might fail. Willing to bet on your future, even if the past was easier to predict. Here are some practices to help you face the fear of change. 1. Breathe into it. When fear spikes, so does your nervous system. Practice slow, deep breathing. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6. Do this several times. Remind your body it is safe. 2. Visualize the other side. Picture the version of you who has already made the change. What does she look like? How does she walk, speak, live? Let that version guide you. 3. Anchor to your why. Write down why this change matters. Reconnect to the soul-level truth that led you here. Let it be your compass when fear clouds your vision. 4. Break it into small steps. Big changes are overwhelming. Break them down into one brave decision at a time. One phone call, one conversation, one moment of honesty. 5. Celebrate micro-courage. Every time you act with courage, celebrate it. Don't wait for the big success. Honor the small, quiet wins. They matter more than you know. And finally, remember this. Fear is loudest right before the leap. Because the ego wants to protect you from risk. But your soul is not interested in comfort. It's interested in truth, in freedom, in alignment. So yes, change is scary. But so is staying stuck. So is shrinking. So is betraying yourself for another year. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to be faithful. Faithful to your evolution. Faithful to your deeper knowing. Faithful to the version of you who is waiting on the other side of fear. Because you are not falling apart. You are shedding. And fear is just the sound of your old self clinging to its last breath. Let it go. Discomfort is the birthplace of growth. Not success. Not applause. Not perfection. Discomfort. It's the awkward silence in a conversation you used to avoid. It's the lump in your throat as you speak your truth. It's the sting of rejection, the ache of loneliness, the uncertain steps forward into the dark. And it is absolutely essential. We don't grow when we're comfortable. We don't evolve when everything is easy. We don't transform when life hands us constant affirmation. We grow in the in-between. In the mess. In the stretch. In the tension between who we used to be and who we're becoming. The discomfort you feel right now, whether it's emotional, physical, spiritual, or mental, is not a sign you're doing something wrong. It's a sign you're stepping into a new dimension of yourself. One that hasn't fully formed yet. One that requires faith before clarity. Let's break this down. Why discomfort matters. Think about it biologically. When you work out and push your muscles, they tear slightly. That tearing? That soreness? That's the discomfort that precedes strength. Your soul is no different. Growth is not soft and cozy. It's not wrapped in certainty. It's raw, it's real, it's gritty. Because transformation asks you to stretch beyond your old limits, to break patterns. Release beliefs, challenge identities, let go of people, and step into unknown territory. That doesn't feel good. At first, it feels wrong, awkward, painful. But just like a muscle, you are rebuilding something stronger. The discomfort is a sacred space. But here's the trap. We are conditioned to avoid it. We are taught that if something hurts, it must be wrong. If we're anxious, we must stop. If something is hard, we must turn around. We are addicted to comfort. We crave certainty. We want the illusion of control. So instead of facing discomfort, we numb it with food, scrolling, alcohol, distractions. Avoid it by staying busy, overworking, caretaking others. Deny it, pretend everything's fine. Suppress our truth. Run from it, quit too early. Ghost people, self-sabotage. But here's what no one told us. Discomfort is not the enemy. It's the evidence. Evidence that you are growing. Evidence that you are trying. Evidence that you're leaving behind a comfort zone that no longer serves you. It's the growing pains of the soul. The 3 types of discomfort in growth. 1. Identity discomfort. This is when the story you told yourself about who you are begins to shift. Maybe you've always been the fixer, the pleaser, the high achiever, the strong one, the independent one, and now, you're evolving. You're questioning roles you played for years. That feels uncomfortable. Because identity is a kind of armor, and shedding it feels like standing naked. But you must be willing to outgrow your old identity in order to discover your true self. 2. Emotional discomfort. You feel everything. Grief, rage, sadness, longing, relief, confusion, joy, all at once. You're learning to sit with emotions you used to run from. You're no longer suppressing or spiritually bypassing. You're feeling. And that is uncomfortable, but it's necessary. Because feeling is the gateway to healing. 3. Relational discomfort. As you grow, Your relationships change. You outgrow dynamics. You speak boundaries. You say no. You pull back. You show up differently. Some people won't like it. Some will misunderstand. Some will leave. And yes, it hurts. But it's part of the process. Because you can't rise into your truth while pretending to be someone you're not, just to keep someone else comfortable. How to grow through discomfort. Here are the tools to hold yourself through the messiness. 1. Name it without judging it. Say it clearly. I am uncomfortable because I'm changing. This feels unfamiliar, and that's okay. This hurts because I'm healing. Labeling the discomfort gives you power. It separates the sensation from your identity. 2. Stay. Don't numb. Sit with the discomfort like you would sit with a crying child. You don't fix it. You don't ignore it. You offer presence, compassion, time. Ask yourself, what does this discomfort need from me right now? Sometimes it just wants to be seen. 3. Find small anchors. Growth feels chaotic. Find something that grounds you. A walk. A journal. A favorite song. A breath. You don't need a solution. You need to feel safe inside your own body. 4. Trust the process. Even if you can't see the end yet. Even if no one understands. Even if you're not sure you're doing it right. Keep going. There is no map to becoming. There is only movement. One choice at a time. One shift at a time. One truth at a time. The beauty on the other side. Here's what happens when you stay with your discomfort instead of running. You build inner trust. You become emotionally resilient. You learn who you are beneath the roles and titles. You uncover parts of yourself that had been waiting to be reclaimed. You discover peace, not from the absence of pain, but from the presence of wholeness. And that is a victory greater than comfort. So if you're in a season where everything feels tender, stretched, confusing, awkward, remember this. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're not failing. You are growing. You are shedding. You are becoming. And growth, while rarely pretty, is always worth it. There comes a point in every transformation where the path ahead disappears. Not because you've gone the wrong way, but because you're entering territory that hasn't been mapped yet. This is the space between what was and what will be. Where the old you is fading and the new you hasn't arrived. Where answers are unclear, outcomes are uncertain, control is gone. It's called the unknown. And for most people, it's terrifying. Because we are trained, culturally, socially, psychologically, to trust what is familiar. We are conditioned to believe that certainty equals safety. That plans, blueprints, guarantees, and 10-year goals are the only way to feel in control of life. But here's the hard truth. Growth and control rarely coexist. The most powerful moments in your life will require you to release your grip on certainty. To step forward when you can't see the whole staircase. To move before you're ready. To leap without knowing where you'll land. That is trust. Not blind, naive, wishful thinking. But deep, soul-level surrender to something greater than your fear. Why the unknown is necessary. Let's reframe what it means to be in the unknown. It's not punishment. It's not failure. It's not being lost. It's a divine pause. A sacred blank canvas. A space of becoming. Think about nature. A seed must sit in darkness before it blooms. A caterpillar must dissolve in a cocoon before it becomes a butterfly. Winter must come before spring can begin. Life requires these in-between seasons. The unknown is the soul's cocoon. It's where you're stripped of all the things you used to hide behind, identities, roles, plans, attachments, so that what's real can emerge. This isn't a place to escape. This is a place to surrender into. Why trust feels hard. We've all been hurt. We've all been disappointed. We've all experienced moments when things didn't go as planned, when life betrayed our expectations, or when people broke our hearts. So we built walls. We clung to control. We stopped trusting. It makes sense. If you've been told the unknown is dangerous, you'll try to micromanage life. If you've been made to feel unworthy, you'll try to earn certainty through perfectionism. If you've been abandoned, you'll try to cling to what's familiar, even when it's no longer right for you. But here's the invitation. You can release the armor. You can trust again, not because everything is guaranteed, but because you are stronger now. Signs you're being called into the unknown. If you're wondering whether this chapter is for you, here are some signs you're walking into the unknown. The life you built no longer feels aligned, but the next version hasn't revealed itself yet. You're being pulled towards something new, but can't explain why. Old dreams are fading, and you haven't found new ones. You feel called to let go of people, jobs, cities, or habits, but you're scared. You crave clarity, but all you feel is confusion. You're not broken, you're not late, you're not failing. You're in transition. You're exactly where you're meant to be. How to build trust in the unknown. 1. Practice inner stillness. The world will try to rush you. Your mind will panic. Your fear will scream, do something, fix it, control it. But the unknown isn't a problem to solve. It's an invitation to slow down, go inward, and listen. Through meditation, silence, journaling, or simply breathing, reconnect with your inner voice, the one beneath the fear. That voice doesn't shout, it whispers. And you'll only hear it if you pause long enough to receive it. 2. Let go of timelines. One of the greatest sources of stress is believing you should be further along. You are not behind, you are not late, you are not stuck. You are unfolding in the exact timing that your soul needs. Release the urgency. The unknown is not a delay, it's development. Trust the timing you cannot see. 3. Make peace with not knowing. You don't have to know where this leads. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't need a 5-year plan right now. What you need is presence. Ask yourself, what is the next right step? What feels aligned, even if it doesn't make sense? What decision moves me closer to peace? Let each day be enough. 4. Anchor in what you do know. When everything feels uncertain, find your roots. You may not know the outcome, but you do know who you're becoming. You do know what no longer fits. You do know what peace feels like. You do know that your intuition hasn't failed you yet. That's enough to take the next step. 5. Remember, you've survived unknowns before. Think about your past. How many times have you walked through things you didn't think you'd survive? How many times has life surprised you with something better than you imagined? How many times has the unknown led to something more beautiful than you could plan? The unknown has always held you, even when you didn't see it. It will hold you again. What happens when you trust the unknown? You free yourself from fear-based decisions. You open up to miracles you couldn't have scripted. You discover inner peace, not because everything is clear, but because you've stopped fighting what is. You walk with faith, not because you see the whole picture, but because you believe in the unfolding. And eventually, the unknown becomes known. What was once unclear becomes obvious. What was once terrifying becomes sacred. And you'll look back and whisper, "Thank you." Because the unknown didn't break you. It built you. It stripped away what you weren't, so you could meet who you truly are. There is a moment, deep within the process of shedding, when the fog begins to lift. When you realize you've been handing your power away for years, maybe even decades. To people who didn't deserve it. To narratives that didn't belong to you. to wounds you didn't ask for, to roles you never wanted to play. This chapter is about taking it back. Not with rage. Not with revenge. But with a quiet, grounded, unshakable knowing. You are not broken. You are powerful. You just forgot. Let's remember. What does it mean to reclaim your power? Reclaiming your power is not about domination. It's not about being loud, or always right, or never vulnerable. It's about returning to yourself. It's remembering that you have the right to take up space. You have the right to change your mind. You have the right to heal, even if others don't understand. You have the right to live a life that makes sense to you. It's about no longer living for other people's comfort while sacrificing your own truth. How you lost your power. Power is rarely taken from us all at once. It's surrendered in small ways over time. When you said yes because you were afraid to say no. When you stayed silent to avoid conflict. When you accepted blame just to keep the peace. When you apologized for simply existing. Many of us were taught to be small to survive. We weren't allowed to be too bold, too honest, too sensitive, too successful. So we dimmed. We shrank. We learned to play roles, the pleaser, the fixer, the invisible one. And it kept us safe for a while. But eventually, the cost becomes too high. You start to feel hollow, resentful, exhausted. That's the signal. That's your soul saying, "Come back to me." The cost of staying powerless. Staying disconnected from your power may feel safer in the short term. But long term, it creates deep suffering. You become dependent on external validation. You tolerate disrespect because you fear being alone. You second-guess every decision, needing permission. You forget how to trust yourself. And perhaps worst of all, you become a stranger to yourself. You wake up one day and don't recognize the life you've built. Because it was built on everyone else's expectations, not your truth. But here's the good news. You can choose differently. Right now. No matter how long you've been disconnected. No matter how far you think you've drifted. Your power is not gone. It's waiting. Step by step. Reclaiming your power. 1. Identify where you gave it away. Start by getting honest. Where do you feel small or unseen? What relationships make you feel drained or disrespected? Where do you betray your own needs or silence your own voice? These aren't easy questions. But clarity is power. You cannot take back what you won't name. 2. Set boundaries without apology. Reclaiming your power means understanding your worth and protecting it. That means setting boundaries. Not everyone deserves access to you. Not every text needs a reply. Not every invitation deserves a yes. Boundaries aren't about punishment. They're about preservation. You're not being mean. You're being clear. And clarity is loving. 3. Speak your truth, even if your voice trembles. Power comes back every time you choose authenticity over approval. You don't have to be eloquent. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to be honest. Start small. Say what you need. Ask for what you want. Share how you feel. You'll be amazed at how much lighter life becomes when you stop pretending. 4. Break up with your old identity. You're not who you were 5 years ago, or even 5 months ago. Let yourself outgrow the version of you that was always available, always accommodating, always agreeable. That version may have helped you survive. But you're not here to survive anymore. You're here to thrive. Reclaiming your power means releasing the outdated roles and stories you've been clinging to, and giving yourself permission to evolve. 5. Reconnect with your inner voice. The loudest voices in your life may not be the wisest. Everyone has opinions. But only you live inside your body. Only you carry your dreams. Only you know what peace feels like. Tune out the noise. Turn inward. Meditate, journal, walk in silence. Do whatever it takes to reconnect with your intuition, the quiet compass that always knows the way. Because real power doesn't come from control. It comes from alignment. Blank, underscore, blank. When you start reclaiming your power, people may not like it. They may call you selfish, cold, dramatic, distant. You may feel guilty, lonely, unsure. That's normal. You're changing the rules of a game you didn't want to play anymore. Some people will fall away. Let them. You are not responsible for other people's comfort at the cost of your own freedom. The ones who love you, the real you, will celebrate your return. This isn't about ego, it's about wholeness. There's a big difference between living in your power and living in your ego. Power says, I belong here. Ego says, I'm better than you. Power says, I trust myself. Ego says, I need to win. True power is rooted in self-respect, not superiority. It's rooted in integrity, not image. You're not reclaiming power to prove anything. You're reclaiming power because you finally remember who you are. You are not your trauma. You are not your people-pleasing. You are not your wounds. You are not the version of you that was built out of fear. You are a force. You are coming home. Let this be the chapter where you rise. Let this be the moment you stop waiting for permission. Let this be the moment you say, I no longer abandon myself to keep the peace. Let this be the moment you realize, you're not falling apart. You're not being selfish. You're not becoming someone new. You're remembering. And the version of you that's been buried under doubt, silence, guilt, and fear? She's not gone. She's rising. And she's powerful beyond measure. There's a moment after the shedding, the unraveling, the storm, when everything becomes quiet. Not empty, but clear. And in that stillness, something stirs inside you. A voice you haven't heard in years. A calling you've tried to bury. A sense of coming home to yourself. This chapter is not about fixing what's broken. It's about stepping fully into who you were always meant to be, beneath the noise. The fear, the masks, the conditioning. You're not falling apart. You never were. You've been becoming. Blank, underscore, blank. The becoming is not a destination. Let's begin by breaking the illusion. Becoming who you were meant to be is not a place you arrive at. It's not the moment everything is perfect. It's not the day the pain is all gone. It's not a version of you that's always calm, always graceful, always healed. Becoming is a process. A messy, beautiful, nonlinear unfolding of self. It's the decision, every single day, to come back to your truth. To your body. To your needs. To your values. To your soul. It's choosing to live awake. You were never meant to stay the same. We live in a world that glorifies consistency. Pick a path. Stick to the plan. Be who you said you'd be. But growth doesn't work that way. You are not a brand. You are not a fixed identity. You are not here to impress others with your predictability. You are a living, breathing, becoming. You were not put here to fit into a mold. You were put here to expand, to outgrow, to evolve, to surprise even yourself. And yes, that means letting go of what, or who, no longer fits. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. You were meant to be whole, not perfect. For years, you may have chased an impossible ideal. Always kind. Always calm. Always productive. Always positive. But the truth is, You are meant to be real, not perfect. You are allowed to have bad days, to make mistakes, to feel deeply, to start over again and again. Wholeness is about embracing every part of you. The light and the shadow, the strength and the softness, the clarity and the confusion. You don't have to wait until you have it all together to feel worthy. You already are. What becoming really looks like. Let's make this tangible. Becoming who you were meant to be might look like saying no without guilt, leaving a job that kills your spirit, ending a relationship that keeps you small, starting therapy, a business, a new chapter, wearing what you love, not what others expect, speaking up, even when your voice shakes, allowing joy in, even when life is messy, forgiving yourself for who you were when you didn't know better. Becoming looks ordinary on the outside, but inside, it's revolutionary. You don't need to be ready. Here's a secret. You don't need to feel ready to become who you were meant to be. You just need to be willing. Willing to try. Willing to risk. Willing to fail. Willing to grow. The readiness comes later. The clarity comes through action. Your job isn't to have it all figured out. Your job is to begin. Take the next right step. Then the next. Then the next. Let go of the past without erasing it. Becoming doesn't mean rejecting your past. It means reclaiming it with compassion. Every version of you, even the ones you cringe at, was doing their best with the tools they had. They were survival versions. They were coping versions. They were trying. Honor them. You wouldn't be here, on the edge of this becoming, without every stumble, heartbreak, detour, and moment of doubt. You are not broken because you've struggled. You are powerful because you've risen. Your becoming inspires others. You may not see it now, but your courage to change, your quiet revolution, gives other people permission to do the same. When you stop apologizing for who you are, you teach others how to stand in their truth. When you chase the life that feels aligned, you light the path for those who are still lost. Your healing echoes. Your authenticity ripples. Your becoming matters, not just for you, but for the world. You are already her. You've spent so long chasing her, the future version of you that finally has it all together. But maybe you already are her. Not because you're perfect. Not because the pain is over. But because you chose yourself. Because you showed up. Because you dared to believe there's more for you than survival. Because you said, I will not abandon myself any longer. She's not far away. She's already inside you. She always was. A love letter to the you who is becoming. Let's end with this. You are not falling apart. You are shedding. You are letting go of what was never truly yours. You are releasing everything that was too small, too heavy, too false. And what remains? The real you. Braver, softer, louder, quieter, wiser, wilder, freer. You are not behind. You are not late. You are right on time. This is your unfolding. This is your emergence. This is your homecoming. So go. Be bold. Be messy. Be you. You are not becoming someone else. You are finally becoming yourself.